welcome back to my channel. So for tonight's video, we're going to be reading some more scary stories. I'm so sorry that I've been gone for so long. I did have some health issues that I had to take care of, and I got a bunch of MRIs done, I got a bunch of testing done, and I won't bore you with all of that, but everything is okay now, so I can continue on filming videos. I'm hoping I can get back in the habit of filming every 2 days or so, like 2 videos a week. I want to try to do like Tuesday and Thursday, but I'm not going to promise anything. Sometimes it might be Wednesday, Friday. I don't actually know because I do have a full-time job aside from doing YouTube. So I film basically whenever I have a chance after my full-time job, and I haven't been able to for a little while. I did have a minor surgery and I had to recover from that, and I also had other testing that I had to get done, and now everything is good to go. So let's jump into the spooky stories. So I'm going to be reading a bunch of stories from the no sleep section. So these are fictional stories. So if you're not a fan of the fictional stories, I'm sorry. Sometimes I do have to sprinkle that type of content into my channel because I can't always find well-written and long real stories from you guys. So if you have any fictional or real or scary stories in general that you want to share with the channel, feel free to either email me or message me over my Instagram, and I'll definitely read your guys' personalized scary stories. I just don't have a lot from you guys anymore. So if you guys want more real life stories, please feel free to message me, or otherwise I have to go over to Reddit and they're not always real. So this is from the no sleep section. It's from the Reddit author specialist-tree-1998, and it's titled, "My friend vanished into the lake. Now he's back, and I know it isn't him." All of this started when a friend of mine, John, suggested we go to the north of a large lake in Minnesota to do some ice fishing. Neither of us were new to ice fishing, and between us, we had just about all the newest high-end gear you could possibly need for doing something as bold as camping on a frozen lake in northern Minnesota for a week. So we went up there in high spirits and enough bait to make your local Walmart jealous. We made it to the lake early Sunday morning and drove out onto the ice, something neither of us had done before as fishermen who had only fished the relatively thin ice of the more southern lakes. It was pretty high spirits, laughter and shitty music coming from the local radio stations all the way to our fishing spot. When we got out of my truck, the freezing air punched me in the face and my breath got sucked away into the wind with a white cloud. The weather forecast was perfect for the next week, with sub-zero nights and 20s in the day. We had immediately set to work getting our shanty, a little 2-man clam style built into a sled, on ice, holes drilled, and bait tied. We were sitting on 30 feet of water and little dots bobbed just off the bottom of the fish finder screen. We dropped our baits into the inky black water beneath us, and there seemed to be no force on earth that could kill our joy, as within seconds, 2 of those dots flew off the bottom and slammed into our bait. For the first couple of days, everything was going great. We were catching plenty of fish, the ice shanty stayed warm, and we were having an amazing time, taking a break from the world. It wasn't until the 3rd day that shit hit the fan. We had only checked the weather before going out, and I mentioned it looked perfect. So it caught us off guard when it got cold. Really cold. It would have been fine if the wind hadn't picked up to the point that the canvas on the shanty whipped and snapped violently. The once pleasantly warm air inside was wicked away faster than our propane heaters could produce, and it was going outside risked of getting frostbite in minutes. Beneath us, the ice groaned and cracked as rapid ice formations and movement from the wind strained it. I had grown quite accustomed to the sound of ice formation, but this was something completely different. It was like a constant thunder beneath our feet. As things started getting bad, every so often John would get up and do something. He repeatedly opened the blind of the window, retrieved his keys from his pocket and checked them, changed lures, and even checked the weather on his phone, even though we had no cell service. It was clear he was getting antsy and wanted to be anywhere but on the lake. I said something before he did. "Hey, do you want to pack it up and head in until this blows over?" He began reeling in his bait before responding. "Yeah, I'm worried we're gonna freeze to death out here, man." "I hear ya. Go get the truck started, I'll go get everything packed up." John wasted no time getting out of the tent and sprinting to the truck. I was disconnecting the wires of the fish finder when I heard it barely chug to life. Amidst the din of the truck rumbling, ice crackling, and wind, there was a new noise. It caught my ears as I set the fish finder in the sled and I stopped moving to listen. It was faint, crinkling noise, like someone was eating a bag of chips outside the shanty. Then with a gust of wind that bent the support poles of the shanty, there was a snap. My stomach lurched as unexpected movement startled me. Ice flew past the opening of the floor where our fish holes had once been. In my shock, it took me a couple more seconds to realize what had happened. The metal stake securing the shanty had broken free of the ice and was now gliding across the smooth ice of the lake in a blistering speed. I didn't know what to do, so I did the only thing that seemed rational at the time. I pressed my boots into the ice to try to use them as brakes. The metal crampons on my boots dug into the ice and I stopped dead. In an instant, I was slammed to the ground with such force that I momentarily blacked out. I came to an instant later tangled in the base of the tent, getting dragged along with it. In a panicked daze, I fought against the fabric, tearing at it like an animal in a cage, and eventually, it let me go, and I came to a sliding stop. I looked up and immediately my eyes teared up from the cold and wind. Through tears, I could see the truck's headlights in the distance. Shakily, I stood and I waved my arms in the air trying to signal where I was. John saw me and began driving towards me. He was only about 100 feet away when I heard a boom, like lightning strike right in front of me, and the ice shifted violently. I was knocked off balance and fell to my knees. I watched as the ice beneath the truck buckled, plunging downward faster than it could fall, and a geyser of water and ice shot up from below. The headlights of the truck went out and it plunged into the water. I got up and I ran towards my friend trapped inside. I could just barely see him pounding on the glass of the side window in a desperate attempt to escape. The truck sank quickly, diving headfirst into the unforgiving waters. By the time I reached the water's edge, it was gone. Not a trace of it, or my friend, anywhere to be seen. I fell asleep there by the water. I woke up the next day feeling numb and hungry. A huge pile of snow had built up on my back against the wind, protecting me against the worst of the onslaught. It was softly snowing with no wind, and the place in front of me that had once been water was replaced with ice as if nothing had happened. I had nothing, not even my phone. That was in the sled that blew away. The only thing I still had were my clothes and my meager survival skills. I knew I needed to get off the lake as fast as possible. There was nothing to eat out here, and eating snow would only make me colder. Looking around made everything that much more bleak. The snow was a perfect sheet of white, and the white sky merged into it seamlessly. There was no telling where the sun was in the sky, and thus no way of knowing where to go. I chose a direction, and I started walking, my aching body protesting with every step. After walking for a while, I stopped seeing the snow. Everything in my mind had become uniform white. Only my balance kept me upright and moving. Now and again, colorful shapes fitted into the edges of my vision and then disappeared. Oddly, they didn't really bother me. Through the snow of my own, likely confused mind, a word popped out. Gainesfield. I had taken a psychology class in college and learned about it. The Gainesfield effect, when in the presence of a uniform color and sound, your brain will compensate with hallucinations. I saw a deer run through the emptiness, and a voice whispered at me to follow. A dog barked, a truck engine rumbled, and its hood was visible above the snow. All of it was completely and utterly fabricated by my mind. That's what I thought was the case too, when the shape of an ice shanty faded into existence at the edge of my vision. It was a wooden hut that didn't look at all dissimilar to an outhouse. It was dead silent as I approached, and no smoke came out of the pipe. When I got near it, I shouted out, "Is anyone there?" There was a shuffling inside, and a man came out wearing a heavy coat and snow pants. "What are you doing all the way out here in a storm like that?" I thought about telling him everything, but instead, I settled with, "My ice shanty blew away. I'm not sure where I am." "Well, that sure does sound like a predicament. Why don't you come in and warm up?" I took his offer and I followed him inside. It was only marginally warmer than the outside, certainly not above freezing, but it was better than nothing. The man grabbed a hunk of wood and threw it into the stove, lighting it with a match. "Do you want something to eat? I got a good walleye I caught today." I hadn't eaten well over a day, and at that point, I would have eaten rocks if it meant I could fill my stomach. Eating fish would be a dream come true. "That sounds amazing, thank you." He cut fillets of nice walleye sitting dead in some water and cooked them on the stove. He handed both of them to me, and I ate them ravenously. By the time I was done, the light coming through the small window above the stove had dimmed and sleepiness threatened to overtake me. The man noticed and said, "You can stay here tonight, if you want. It's far too risky traveling alone at night. Tomorrow will get you ahead in your direction." I thanked him and I lay down on the floor next to the ice, falling asleep almost immediately. I woke up to the feeling of being dragged through the snow. I opened my eyes to darkness. It was just bright enough to see the silhouette of the man who had let me into his hut, dragging me by my feet. My hands were tied behind my back and in my mouth was a gag. I wasn't dead, but I couldn't struggle as long as he was holding onto me, so I stayed still and I watched him through silted eyes. We came to a stop in a cleared area of snow, and he let go of my feet and walked a few feet away, inspecting something that I couldn't see. Slowly, I shifted my body to get a look at what it was. It was a massive hole, a hole in the ice. Some 6 feet by 3 feet, with a pile of thick blocks of ice off to the side. Sitting on top of those was the culprit, a gas-powered chainsaw. The man picked up something out of the snow and set it into the hole. He fiddled with it for a bit and a flame lit into the darkness. He stood above the burning log and watched it grow. As he did, I noticed something odd, a mute detail that I hadn't picked up on when I first met him, but in the moment seemed as clear as day. When he breathed, nothing came out. As I watched, my own breath billowed out of my nose in the frigid air, but not even a wisp of vapor came from the man. Silently, I began moving my wrist to try to shake off the twine handcuffs. They were done over my gloves, and I slipped them off with very little effort. The ankle bindings would take much more work, though. I stealthily moved to bring my feet to my hands when the man whipped his head around to look at me. "Well, look who's finally awake. I didn't want you sleeping through this next part." I tried kicking myself away, but as he walked over and grabbed me like I was nothing, dragging me over to the hole. With little fanfare, he pushed me into the water. The shock of the ice-cold water made my vision swim, and I gasped. The gag, fortunately, prevented most of the water from entering my lungs. I kicked and I struggled to stay above the water, as the man, humming to himself, grabbed a block of ice and dropped it back in the water. He wasn't just going to let me freeze to death, but worse, freeze me under the ice to drown. My mind ran with ideas. I stopped moving and I allowed myself to sink. Grabbing the rope around my ankles, I undid it and I kicked myself free. The second block had already been dropped in. Using all of my quickly dwindling strength, I launched out of the water and I grabbed the man's leg as he grabbed my ice block. I pulled with all of my strength and he wordlessly plunged into the water with me. Twisting my body, I pushed my crampons into his leg and I used him as a board to launch myself out of the hole. By some miracle, it worked. I flopped my way onto the safe ice and willed my body to sprint, following the trail left by my body as the man had dragged it. Looking back, I watched as the man calmly pulled himself out of the hole and sat by the fire. I reached the man's hut and I immediately stripped my soaked clothes. Rummaging through the man's stuff, I was able to procure a coat, pants, and gloves. It wasn't warmer than my other stuff, but it would have to do. I ran far, far away from that hut. When the sun came up in the morning, I was once again completely alone in a pristine plain of snow. I could talk about the countless hallucinations over those next days, or the way my body got weaker and weaker from the lack of food, but it was the water that nearly killed me. I was only physically able to be warm enough to eat some snow every several minutes or so, and when I did, I often had to spit it out without getting hardly any water because my mouth was frozen. Combined with my excessive walking, this led me to being extremely dehydrated. Salvation came in the form of a tripping hazard. One night, as I walked through the near pitch-black darkness, my boot collided with something hard beneath the snow. Excavating it, I found that I had come across an abandoned, handheld ice auger. I couldn't see it, but as I traced my finger along the blades, it told me that it would cut ice. I was ecstatic, feeling energy unlike I had in days. I stood and began drilling my way through the ice. The sound of metal shaving ice filled the air in the darkness. My arms burned from the effort of cranking the auger deeper and deeper into the ice. I was beginning to have to bend over to keep going when the feeling of the ice changed. It felt wrong. Now and again, the auger would get stuck on something, and I would have to reverse it and attack again. With the final push, the ice suddenly gave, and I fell flat on my face as my auger plunged into the liquid water. I yanked it out and I put my mouth in the hole, greedily drinking the disgusting lake water. The water tasted metallic. It was just barely noticeable, and I certainly didn't care given how thirsty I was. Once I drank my fill, I looked to the horizon to see the very edge of twilight illuminating the clouds, providing an obvious edge to where the ground met the sky. As I got brighter, I could see nothing besides the perfect plain of snow I had grown accustomed to, a blue auger, and the hole it had drilled in the ice. It wasn't the hole that caught my attention, though. It was what was around it. The ice shavings surrounding it were red with flecks of black. My heart jumped with fear, but I rationalized it. Surely it must be something natural, maybe some algae that froze into the ice. I crawled back to the hole and I looked in it. Feet of ice, and then something else. I began clearing the snow away around the hole. I could see a shape below the ice, but the snow that stuck to the surface wouldn't let me get a view. Taking off my gloves, I stuck my hands into the water and I cupped them together. I splashed water over the ice and I immediately became crystal clear. There, frozen in the ice, was John, with a hole drilled right through his chest. His face contorted in anguish as if my auger was the reason he had died. I felt sick, The water I had just drank threatened to come back up. With some difficulty, I forced it down. I collapsed to the ground and I curled up, sobbing. Nearly a week's worth of suffering finally bubbling over. I stayed that way for quite a while until the sun was high in the sky. The sun, I realized that for the first time, unfiltered sunlight was reaching me. I looked up and I found that the sky had cleared, and on the very horizon, I could see a black line of trees. I stood and I took one last look towards John before finally making my way back to land. I can't say it was much better once I got back there though. Hospitals, amputations, all sorts. I lost all of my toes, my right pinky and ring finger, and the tip of my nose. There was a lot of other complications as well that left me with a lengthy hospital stay and a massive bill. I've regained my ability to walk and I've fallen back into normal life. Besides the weekly therapy sessions though. It's been a year since then, and I'm only writing the story now because I got a knock on my door today. It was John, wearing a coat and snow pants. In the center of his chest, the coat seemed to cave in. He smiled warmly at me and said, "Hey man, long time no see. Want to do some ice fishing?" Despite the cold, no vapor left his mouth. And that's the whole story. So that one was just really well written and really fucking creepy, and just all along it, I don't want to ever go ice fishing. Like, no, thank you. That sounds terrible. The whole story was just crazy. I probably would have froze to death if I had been on the lake for that long. You had no water, no food, you're freezing. Like, I don't know how he survived. That guy is a trooper, like, holy crap. I'm just really confused what the other ghost man dude that was clearly dead was trying to do with him. Was he trying to make him another undead, one of them? I'm so confused. I want an update. That story was really freaking creepy, and I need more. I need to know what the heck is gonna happen in the future. Yeah, there isn't an update. So I'm very interested to read more of their stories though. They have a lot of different stories. Like there's one that is called I Work in a National Park That Doesn't Exist. That one sounds really freaking interesting. So that might be the next one that I read, but this one was really well read, and I'm only gonna read the one story in this video because we're already at the 20-minute mark, and this is already gonna be a longer-ish video than my usual. If you guys did enjoy this story and you have any comments, questions, or just general comments you want to leave, please let me know in the comments down below. I would love to hear your guys' opinion of this story. If you guys like the fictional stories, if you prefer the more true ones from you guys, let me know in the comment section down below. Also, if you made it to the end of the video, leave me a fish emoji just because that'll be on theme with today's video. I'm sorry again that I haven't been posting as much as I would like. I'm hoping in the future, upcoming weeks, I can be back on a regular schedule if I could talk. I can't even talk today. I need to end this video. But thank you so much for watching this video. If you guys have enjoyed it, please leave me a comment down below. Please give it a big thumbs up, and don't forget to share it around and subscribe if you're not already subscribed to my channel. It means the world to me that you guys join my spooky little family. Also, if you have any creepy stories, paranormal stories, or just scary stories in general that you would like to share and have me read on the channel, please feel free to message me either over Instagram or my email, and I would love to read you guys' personalized stories. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys at the next video. Bye.